check this shit out. So, Cory Booker, remember he was supposedly, allegedly dating Rosario Dawson, but that went away. I haven't seen any girlfriends in his life yet or since. But anyway, Cory Booker and what's his name? Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries, the two, I don't know, they're two the head Democrats or whatever. People are listening to them. And they did a sit-in. Now, I know when you hear sit-in, you're thinking back in the Jim Crow days, whites only, blacks only, you can't eat here, right? And I think the forced desegregation of the country was detrimental, but that's another video. But when you hear sit-in, that's what you think, a lunch counter, black kids sitting in at a white establishment. They weren't allowed to. Here come the white people. Get the fuck out of here, boy. Right? That's what a sit-in is. Well, that's what a sit-in was. Fast forward to 2025. Look how fun and comfortable sit-ins have become.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Senator Cory Booker held a sit-in protest on the steps of the Capitol today. The two were there for more than 12 hours until about half an hour ago, with the sit-in starting at 6 a.m. Jeffries and Booker voiced their opposition to the Republican budget plan, which includes potential cuts to Medicaid and Medicare. Congress returns from a 2-week recess tomorrow, and Republicans plan to move the resolution forward through the budget reconciliation process, which allows them to pass it without any Democratic support.
That bill, we believe, presents one of the greatest moral threats to our country that we've seen in terms of what it will do to providing food for the hungry, care for the elderly, services for the disabled, health.
That's right, gay guy. I mean, Cory Booker. That's right. The elderly are gonna freeze to death in the cold of the winter. The hungry are gonna die of starvation on the streets of America because Trump is gonna cut off all their funding. Your grandparents are dead, and so are your children. But this lady, I found this little nugget. She describes what the old sit-in used to look like.
And basically all hell broke loose. Memphis Norman was pulled from his stool and stomped. He was bleeding out of every opening in his head. And then I think he was actually unconscious at one point. So he and the former policeman who was stomping him were arrested by an undercover cop in the store and hauled off. I think Memphis actually made it to the hospital before he was booked. And I was there, in the crowd. And so I ended up taking Memphis's seat between the two girls. And then Annie Moody and I were pulled off our stools and drugged basically to the entrance of the store, at which point the guy who was pulling me out was arrested. And so Annie and I went back in, and we couldn't get back to Perlina, but we got to wherever we could at the counter and sat there.
So these racist white people who were stomping blood out of this black dude's head were arrested? So you don't ever hear about that. You only hear about the bad things they did, and you don't hear about any punishment. And it almost makes you think that it was just lawless and you could do whatever you want to black folks in the South. But was it like that? I don't know. She just said they got arrested. So I'm just trying to reconcile that with what we've been told for years. And so you see the new version of the sit-in, which is fucking ridiculous. It's a couple of dudes sitting on the steps of the Capitol. There's probably security off camera. Everybody's dressed in, weather appropriate clothing, and probably saw some Gucci sneakers there. I'm sure those sunglasses that Hakeem Jeffries are not, gas station priced. That's a sit-in. You weren't even sitting somewhere you weren't wanted. I don't even know where that would be. Because if you're sitting around your constituents or your demographic, they're certainly not going to say anything to you. And I'm sure even if you went to a Trump rally and set up this little bullshit sit-in, nobody would say anything to you. So is there a place in America where you could sit there and not be wanted, and people would not only say something to you, but harm you, grab you and physically remove you from that establishment. Does that place even exist in America? Oh, no, teacher, I know. No, it doesn't, you asshole. A sit-in? You called that a sit-in? That's what a sit-in is nowadays? You heard that lady say that they threw the dude on the ground and stomped him. He had blood coming out of all the openings. Now, it's a little bit similar to Cory Booker because I'm sure he wouldn't mind blood coming out of one of his openings, but it's not quite the same thing. That was a white girl that they grabbed and threw out of that fucking store. They're grabbing white girls like that. But they got arrested. But they don't tell you that there's ever any punishment for this. It's just they just did what they want. They were grabbing black people, punching them, hanging them, kicking them, and nobody did anything. But that's a new look how far we've come. So to all of you civil rights activists from the 50s and 60s who lay bleeding in a jail cell without medical attention, your brain swelling and hemorrhaging under the pressure, your brain pressing against your skull because of the fluid building in it. And you're probably going to be dead in a couple hours on that cold jail cell floor. To all of you and your families who are left behind to grapple with the grief of losing you, I say, shut up. Because this is a sit-in. This 2025 sitting on the steps of the Capitol building with no pushback is a fucking sit-in. If you guys happen to, I'm talking to black folks, white people, back off. But any black folks, if you have grandparents or great-grandparents who are still around, or even parents, if you're old enough and you have parents who lived under Jim Crow and experienced real racism, I want you to walk up to them and slap them in their face, because that's what this is. That's what this is. This is a slap in their face. So slap them across their face like you're a pimp and they came up short by $20. All right? Because what you just witnessed with Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker, who probably spent most of, and they were only there for 12 hours. They had a schedule. We're going to be here from 6 to 6 at this planned sit-in, this casual little sit-in. They may or may not have spent most of those 12 hours making out, but that's where they were. And if you weren't there, you were on the wrong side of history. Of course, Aaron M., you got to record it. You guys never saw the selfies for the people at the sit-ins, the real ones that were like, and that white dude, his fist was like coming in, was like this, and they took a picture like duck lips as they're getting sprayed with the fire hoses, and the girls would just bend over and like push their tits together. No, they would do the Marilyn Monroe. They push their dress up. Ooh, you know when she stood over the grate or whatever that blew the air up. Oh, like that. That's how they're getting sprayed with fire hoses, and the girls are like, ooh, like Marilyn Monroe. This is awesome. And then like the black guy, he have a fucking police German Shepherd hanging off of his forearm, and he's like, whatever the kids do. You got to record that shit. Oh yeah, don't forget twerking. Girl's like, twerking on a cop, and he's taking his fucking billy club, and he's like putting it like right on the back of her fucking skull. Boom, but she's like, back that thing up. Forget it. Forget it. I'm just, it's damn common sense. I can't get rid of it. But Trump's first 100 days.